How did you meet your girlfriend as an introvert? Viewer edition. Story 1. Long story. So basically, this is how I got a girlfriend. I barely had friends at this point, so I'm just sitting down with my phone and I see some bullies. They were a group of girls who always bully people who don't acknowledge them. They were popular, though, but I didn't care. I'm just a Sonic kid playing my video games. Now, I didn't know that it was going to happen, but they just happened to walk by me. And they never messed with me before, so they were probably thinking a new victim would be nice. So then they start talking to me, saying, "Hey nerd, what you playing?" I replied, "My phone." So then the leader of the group grabs my phone and says, "Not anymore." So I just pull out my Switch from my backpack and start playing that. So then they try to get it, and then I walk away. The girls get confused and shout at me, "Hey, aren't you going to take your phone back?" I say, "No thanks, your hot breath is all over it now." She gets mad and tells one of her friends to block my path. So now I can't leave. Then the leader of the girls runs up to me and grabs a glass of water someone was going to drink. Then she says, "Heads up," and throws it at me. I then duck and it misses me and hits one of the other girls and ruins the outfit she had. I then reply with, "Wow, good thing, you really needed a bath," with a bold look on my face. Then it's time for track. I had to participate and I was kinda athletic, but she didn't try running fast. I'm now running on the track and the bullies are trying to get revenge on me. I see that a water thrower is trying to outrun me. She comments on how fast I'm running, and so I start actually running and I'm able to keep up. That's when I see one of the water thrower's friends running backwards. I get suspicious of it. So then I'm focused on running faster. I'm about to finish a lap and water thrower's close behind. That's when I see the girl from before standing off the track. So then I finish the lap and I just realized what was going to happen. The girl standing off the track is trying to trip me, but it's too late and I get tripped. Then the missing water thrower is laughing, right as I'm falling, but I end up rolling and getting back up really quickly, and then I see water thrower's smirk disappear. She isn't looking where she's going, and she doesn't see another person jogging in front of them, and she falls on her face after. Then I'm at lunch, and a water thrower is just trying to turn into a milk thrower. She gets a milk carton and tries to pour it on me. Of course, I already knew what was going to happen because one of them kept snickering. So then she tries to pour it on me, but I'm actually taller than her, and when she poured it, only a few drops touched my head. She's the one who gets straight A's, and was too mad to realize it wouldn't pour all on my head. I then grab the carton and pour it on her, while she's realized her plan didn't work. Now I was the milk thrower, and then school was free time. I always spend it up on the roof of the school. That's when the bullies came up here, since they knew I would be up there, since they always see me here. So they challenged me to a fight, but I'm actually good at fighting. I see my character in my game is really strong and good at fighting, so that's why I work on my skills. So I end up fighting with the leader. She was good, I must admit, but I was overpowering her. She tries to kick me and I grab her leg and turn her over, so they fall on their face. I smirked as I looked down on them. The school fight was being recorded by some people who witnessed it. I ended up getting a few bruises, but I was still winning. She had a cut on her face from her falling on it. Then a teacher came up because someone snitched. The leader then ran at me. I moved to the side and kicked them onto the concrete. But she also ended up grabbing my arm, and I fell with them, and I fell on her. Big personality. Lucky me. I got no witches when I was introverted, so this was kinda lucky to be honest. End of the story, we got sent to the principal's office, and I was shown more respect in school. Turns out the leader of the group of girls ended up falling for me. I'm actually pretty lucky, and I had a change of style. I became more extroverted, and actually, the leader who ended up becoming my girlfriend after weeks after that happened to actually become nicer and switched it up. Of course, I still get made fun of in the present run, and I do get teased for getting beat up by a girl who ended up becoming my girlfriend, but I don't care. They were popular, and I love them. Roast me for being simple right now, but yeah, I think that's it. Story 2. Aha, a good story I have for you. We were both students, different universities, but one big city. It was November, and I'd been working at a local KFC spot when she joined the team 2 years ago. As her senior, I was showing her how to do the work once in a while, and so we talked a bit in our spare time. A little remark must be made. All leftovers must be thrown out when the day ends. But I could take as much chicken home as I could carry, due to being on good terms with these immigrant guys in the kitchen, despite being an introvert. So one day she asks me to get her some food while she's doing her part of cleaning, and I take the box and fit as many hot wings as I can. She texts me later that night to thank for so much food that I gave her on a local Facebook. Short conversation, and that's all. A few days later, she texts me, once again, to have small talk. I get all nervous, a girl texts you, and this small talk descends into hentai and anime stuff quite quickly. After 3 days of nonstop chatting, she mentions some dark spots on her way home from the subway station, and I say, hey, how about I walk you home then, so you wouldn't be scared? And then I cross the whole freaking city to meet her and walk home with her. She was shocked that I really came. We took a walk that night, talking about everything in the world, me making stupid jokes and her laughing at them. We started to meet every now and then, friendly chatting in person, sometimes staying at her place. We had a wonderful time, playing games, doing homework together, despite me being a STEM and her being a linguist, seeing places I would never go myself. We even spent the New Year's night together on the streets, until one night took its place, and we found ourselves kissing, as if it was our last day on Earth. Nah, we didn't get laid that night. That's not what's to expect from two virgins. But in the morning she asked, ironically, so, yeah, friends? And I replied, of course, that's what all friends do at a sleepover. That's how we started dating. Never explicitly stating that we were in a relationship, just knowing that we belonged to each other. And yeah, she got me, not the other way around, as I see it. She taught me many things about life and about myself, as well as I helped her with her problems. Broke with her a year ago, though. We had two different ambitions, two different views on our future, and a very big difference in the amount of our free time. I'm very grateful to her, and just hope she doesn't hate me too much after all this. Story 3. Introvert here, always been shy when talking to women I find cute. Had lots of crushes over the years. I met this cute girl on my last day of college. I didn't even need to be there, as I had already handed in all my homework and gotten it signed off. So I decided to pop in on the last day the college was open before the summer holidays. On Monday, I saw a friend I usually spoke to on the bus, and going to and from college, she introduced me to one of her friends while on the bus. We all had fun talking, nothing awkward. Her friend was really cute. I finished all my college work on Wednesday and got it signed off. On Friday, I decided to pop back into college just to say bye to a few friends that were still there. I bumped into my bus friend on the computers in the library. She was finishing off some work. A few days later, she messaged me to say that the girl was sitting next to me had a huge crush on me. My brain immediately thought of the cute girl she was still next to on the bus, so I tried to get some more info, even got a name. Turns out to be someone she was sitting next to in the library. And she was the only friend with the name given to me on my bus friend's Facebook. I looked at these new girl's photos, hyper cute, added immediately, even shocked her that I added her. We hit it off immediately. 10 days later, on our first date, the first thing we did was a 30-minute snog on the sidewalk, cars honking at us as they passed. Went to my parents for a bit, where she fell asleep on my bed for an hour. I then took her to the beach for sunset and asked her out. Didn't hear her answer, but guessed she said yes, and I only heard an S. Then had our first shag on the beach, in the cold, all shriveled up, all tiny and cold and embarrassed, complete failure. But she kept hugging me and kissing me on our way back to my parents. She immediately suggested trying again on the bathroom floor. She had more protection. Really awkward trying to be quiet, but both got all the way. I even named my manhood my nub cannon. Been together nearly 13 years, married for nearly 3 years, and have a cute little goofy-faced son. She's a fantastic wife. I absolutely love her. Story 4. To start with, I'll describe my girlfriend, now wife. She has long blonde straight hair, light brown eyes. She's 1.68 or 6'9 meters in height. She was born in Spain, but her parents moved to my country, Panama. Her name is Alexa, short for Alexandra. We both met when we were 8 years old, but I never paid much attention to her until I was 10, and we were put in the same class together. Once we were in the same class, we sat next to each other and we started talking, and we became really good friends. Later on, when we started dating, I found out she traded seats with her best friend to be beside me. Aside from talking, there was no romantic interest, at least from my point of view, and it remained like that for an entire year and a half. One day in the 7th grade, I went to my locker to get some books for whatever class I had that day, and found a note that fell out of my locker. I picked it up, and it was a love letter that said something like, "I love your eyes, your voice, your hair. I love the way you're with me, and I admire you so much." At first, I was like, what the frick is this? Thinking it was a joke someone was trying to pull on me. So I started to ask who the handwriting belonged to so that I could return the letter. Little did I know she heard me say that and noticed how uncomfortable the letter made me feel. She felt so embarrassed that she went running to the bathroom crying. Her best friend slapped me across the face and told me that Alexa had made that letter for me, and now I had made her cry. I was so confused that I had to ask what the heck she was talking about, and she realized I didn't know it was Alexa's handwriting. Long story short, I apologized to Alexa and I kept her love letter. Not long after, we started a relationship that has lasted a long time. We're both 22 now and we're still together to this day. We both live together now and recently we had a baby together. Story 5. I'm naturally a loner. I really don't like the norms of society. I'm quick to discourage people from getting to know me, and I come off as rude. I found out that a girl was stalking me, but she was too nervous to meet me. I noticed how nervous she was when I spoke to her. She could hardly speak. I invited her to dinner. She had major social anxiety, so bad that she couldn't place her order. She was too nervous to speak. I got close and asked what she wanted, and she whispered it to me. It turns out she's always had major social anxiety. It turns out that I have a soft spot in my heart for people who I think others would bully. We've been together 9 years now. I still can't get enough of the feeling of having her around. She really cares about me, and she won't make any rules for me to follow. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. She doesn't hold anything against me. I can be silent all day and show up drunk at 3 a.m., and the only thing she asked is if I was hungry. In return, I wouldn't do anything that would hurt her. I must make her smile every day. We both avoid crowded places. People say that I seem to be living in a fairy tale. Lucky me. I haven't told her this, but what are the odds that I find another one like her? I wouldn't change it. I'll keep her happy. She seems to have something similar in mind. I get a massage every night. She gets my attention every night. She tries hard to make me feel comfortable. I'll try hard so that she won't regret it. She knows I have an angry soul. She also knows I'll never hurt her. I never needed her, but the quality of my life is better with her. She doesn't know, but she does have equal pull in this relationship. If she really doesn't want me to do something, then I won't. If she decides to stop me, then I'll assume it must mean a lot to her, and I'll cave. Story 6. In high school, I met my girlfriend in anatomy class. Yes, romantic, I know. And we just talked a lot and laughed at each other's jokes and all that jazz. We kind of stopped talking after a while. And then homecoming. We were freshmen at the time and weren't allowed at the dance. Lame. I was hanging out with a friend who I had a little crush on at the time, but she needed to leave early. Can't remember why. So I was alone for the first half of the football game. And then I saw that girl. She was also by herself. This surprised me because she still had a lot of friends from the year before. 9th grade was my first year at the school, and even though it had been over 3 weeks, I decided to go walk up to her and say hello. We just sat with each other, not talking. We're both serious introverts, watching the game. Then the bonfire got lit. We headed down to the dirt parking lot and watched it burn. We both decided we wanted s'mores. I grabbed 2 marshmallows and put them on my skewer. She took one. She was lighting hers and it caught on fire. The mask mandate was still up and we both had really good reasons for wearing masks. We still both wear them, so I had never seen her face before. I told her and she blew it out, but in the brief seconds I saw her face, I thought she was so pretty. I hung out with her for the rest of the night and we just told stories about ourselves to each other. From then on, we talked every day, way past midnight. Fast forward a few months of flirtatious texts, we end up getting together on Christmas Day, and we've been together since. What screams, I have a crush on you? Viewer edition. Story 1. So it was last day of term 1 in my lesson. I was talking to my crush a lot, and I helped her with a design because my teacher said I had easy and good example. After helping her, me and her went to the sewing machine with her and my friend. My crush acted a bit weird, and my friend said, "If you touch Harvey, you like him. I'm Harvey." She touched me. I was red. My friend burst out laughing. After calming down, my friend and I teased each other. My crush decided to join, and she flicked me in my shoulder, worst area. I burst in pain, while she laughed. We 3 all teased, and then she just went to my friend and gave him a little hug. I burst laughing, but inside I felt jealous. So nothing much happened, and term 2, other than a lot of rumors of me liking someone, I used my voice like Eminem for that whole term. So it was term 3 and it was Friday, aka 3 days ago. I found my way to my new class and I saw my crush. We talked for a while, like 2 minutes. Then the teacher came and told everyone what's going to happen. I was sad because I thought I wouldn't be at the table with my crush. Then God just made a miracle and the teacher told me to sit with 4 people. They were one of my friends, a person really anyone talks to, and my crush. I've prayed to God since. So when we started and the teacher gave everyone the tour around the classroom, me and my crush were like next to each other every time my teacher stopped and told us what each thing does. After that, we all sat down to start learning. Me, my friend, and my crush were working together, and we all talked for a while. My teacher gave everyone a piece of paper, and she put on a board some pictures of stuff we would use in a couple of weeks. I was drawing the stuff, then my friend and my crush were talking random gibberish, so I intervened and we all talked. I laughed, technically, at almost everything she said. My crush started talking like a cat, so I joined in, and we just kept on saying, meow. When the lesson ended and it was home time, I tried to get out, then my crush started chasing me because we were playing. I bolted through the school. So on Monday, it was fine for the past 3 lessons until music. Of course, since I liked my crush, I sat near her, but not like next to her, to make it not obvious, and God made yet another miracle, so I was working with her and 3 other people. I was the drum leader, so I was kind of like the leader. It was fine for like 5 minutes, then everyone messed around. My crush touched my drums, so obviously I didn't get it back. Did you touch my drum set? My friend and my crush were talking, so I got jealous and started insulting my friend. Not sure how no one found the obvious that I liked my crush, so then I started getting laughs from her. Good. So after we all went back to the classroom, my friend said she wanted to hit me, so I was scared. Then my crush said something, then I said something, and then she said, I'll get my boyfriend on you. Okay, so I think it's a joke, she doesn't have a boyfriend, but my mother frickin' self was mad inside, but not outside. Also, this other girl I don't know kept saying hello to me. I don't know who she was, so my friend said she's stalking you. I said, yeah. But after class, I kept looking everywhere just to make sure. Story 2. Apparently, my girlfriend was in love with me since elementary school and had been dropping hints for more than 10 years. Hints that I apparently didn't catch because I was too thick-headed. So in our 3rd year of high school, she snapped and yelled, Name, I've been in love with you for over a decade. What do I need to do for you to finally notice it? We've been married for 7 years, and it's still a mystery how I never noticed her hints. So I guess that my answer to the question would be literally yelling it. Having said that, I guess in my case, what made me understand I truly love her was when we went out for our first date after we officially started dating. We went to the river for a walk. While walking, unfortunately, the strap of my watch broke, and the watch fell straight into the water and was partially washed away. It basically ended up a few meters away from the coast, so it was still visible under the water, but it was unreachable without stepping into the water. Now, that watch wasn't worth much, but it had a special meaning for me since it was a gift from my grandma, and I had worn it for the last 10 years. Before somebody asked, my grandma is still alive and kicking, but she generally gives me money instead of buying me a gift because she never knows what to buy me. So whenever she actually buys me something, I cherish it because it means she spent a lot of time thinking about it. I was about to step into the water to retrieve it, but she anticipated me. She didn't even bother to take off her shoes. She simply jumped into the water, took the watch, and gave it back. I was so shocked by what she did that I actually mumbled, I love you, without even noticing it. That day, I swore I would do anything for her, even if I had to go to hell and back to make her happy. P.S. The watch was unfortunately broken due to the fall and the water that entered the mechanism. In order to have it repaired, I would have had to basically substitute every single part of it. So I explained what happened to my grandma, and her answer was, my watch helped you find the love of your life. Its job is done. I still have the broken watch. I keep it on a shelf in my bedroom as a memento. Story 3. I kinda have a short story, I guess. So I've been meeting with this girl, my classmate, from, I believe, either early or late January. I know her just because of my friend, another classmate, who asked her help for English. He wasn't good at English, and that they were meeting at school to study. This all happened after an English seminar, to be exact. I joined on both occasions, and I joined them both because I was bored at home. So after all of studying and all that, we got each other's phone number and just do Google Meets to study or stay back at school after extra classes. This sounds a bit like trespassing, but just recently my friend, the one that asked for help, said to me that she liked me and showed me chat messages as well. But then she lost interest because I vaped. Well, that was a bit of a dumb move by me. However, I told her that I got rid of the vape. This is really because I wasn't addicted to them. Don't know why they're addicting in the first place, but a lot of people vape. I actually found this vape and didn't buy it, so that it kind of shows I have high luck for some reason. Anyways, maybe me getting rid of the vape might change her mind, because I might confess to her on Monday. I'm from Asia, so it's going to be a different time zone for you guys. I'll edit this comment when I get the results. And the results were mixed. I don't know whether she accepted it or not, so I guess 50-50 chances? So good news. I'm writing this on a Wednesday, and we're official. Well, not in a technicality. We're both in a situationship. Basically, you're dating, but not very emotionally or close. But you're still dating, and she had a reason because she kind of has a problem at home and is sometimes busy. But I'm technically in a relationship, so it was a win in my book, and for the sake of her as well. Well, shoot. Literally tonight, and she wants to break up with me. And honestly, I don't mind. We're both not really fit for each other. However, I did say we'll be friends, and she said it's really good. So moral of the story, just push your luck. 50-50 chance it'll work. But hey, at least you tried. Story 4. Whenever I watch these videos, I hope to hear something that applies to the girl I have a crush on. Most don't, unsurprisingly, but instead just get reconfirmed that I do indeed have a crush on her. I told most of my homies last year at a sleepover. We were exchanging crushes. My best friend, who I was friends with since 1st grade, most of them I only knew since 5th grade, was quite surprised I didn't opt out. Our class is very close. Last year we were only 16 students, 13 guys, 3 girls, and we're all good friends, but never really talked to the girls much before 8th grade, but now they're also part of the family. One of these girls is my crush, and unlike what most guys seem to do, I actually talk to her, and I'm almost certain she knows that I have a crush on her, and she's nice to me, but I don't know if she just likes me as a friend. Some of the interactions we've had do make me think that she might have a crush on me as well. It's just kind of hard to find out when you're basically never able to talk one-on-one because our class always sticks together anywhere we go. You hear about couples in a class quite often. My parents have even asked me if there are any in our class. But it's pretty difficult to get the courage when your social life is on the line because your entire class is your friend group. From like 5th to 7th grade, we shipped one of the guys in our class with her, and anytime we played werewolf, it was basically an unwritten rule that whoever was Cupid had to match them. I don't think they ever had a relationship. Obviously, we've matured since then, but honestly, not that much. What's quite funny is that the girlfriend of one of the only guys in our class in a relationship is her cousin. We all always wonder how he has a girlfriend, considering he's one of the weirdest, even by our standards. He says the N-word very frequently, not to any black people, just randomly, and acts quite gay. Even still, I hope he and his girlfriend have a happy life together. Anyways, there's my ramblings. Story 5. Not me, but my editor. She had this massive crush on this girl, and the problem was that this girl was homophobic, or at least we thought. So, since my editor was embarrassed about being a homophobe, she didn't tell anyone. Now, I can read her like a book. I noticed she was starting to make inappropriate gay jokes in hopes of gaining respect. Note, my editor at the time had only come out to a few people, so no one really knew. She then started being the bad girl that wasn't like her. So we then had this party to celebrate something, I forget what, and I invited the girl and my editor, along with my close friends and the popular kids. My editor had come early, as usual, and we just chatted while I made sure everything was ready. I locked most doors to prevent peeking. I suddenly asked, "Be honest, do you like that homophobe girl in Enter Teacher Name Here's class?" And she said, "How did you know?" So I told her. Funny to mention, later that year, she, the girl my editor liked, came out as lesbian and said her homophobic jokes were because she was embarrassed. My editor asked her out at the end of the year, and she said yes. They're still together today. Side note, I got my editor to type this so that only things she's okay with sharing are here, and I asked the other girl if I could comment on this story, so no worries about privacy. Too long didn't read. Female editor likes homophobe popular girl. I invite everyone to a party. A homophobe comes out as lesbian and says her being homophobe is because she was embarrassed. The editor asked her out. She said yes, still together today. Story 6. I'm a guy, but I'm more close to the girls in the class than the boys. I'm not gay. Being close to girls for years, you tend to learn about them, how they flirt, and what they like. There's no universal answer to tell if she likes you or not, but keep a lookout for these signs, boys. Girls mostly make the first move. But it's so subtle, that's why we miss out their signs most of the time. Number 1, they talk differently. Usually they're more energetic around you, or they talk differently compared to friends, like they open up more to tell you some secrets that she wouldn't tell her friends, stuff like that. Number 2, eye contact is mentioned in the video, so it's pretty obvious. I mean, even if you do extreme head bops, she won't take her eyes off of you. Number 3, most of the time girls are too shy for eye contact, unless you two know each other for years. But she tends to sit close to you. I mean super close, like to the point her elbow is touching your elbow. You'll notice how some girls sit next to you, but not that close compared to that girl who sits next to you, but the elbows are touching each other. Number 4, the smile. This is the hardest and easiest to spot at the same time. It's so hard to spot, you have to be the most attentive man to notice it. There's 2 types of smile. The casual smile and the I like you smile. There's no universal smile for every girl, but when they do that smile, they either look funny or ugly. Take that as a sign. Story 7. This makes me feel so freaking lonely. I just started college and I can't relate to even one person. I was starting to relate to this one girl, but I found out she's lesbian. But basically, I'm a freaking introvert. I've only had one relationship in person 3 years ago, and have had countless relationships online. I have a lot of trauma from my childhood and some accident I was involved in a few years ago, and I've never felt genuinely loved or cared for at home, which makes commuting to college and living with my family still all the more worse. Because of all this, I'm just naturally clingy and panic if I'm left to read for too long or anything like that. The only person I've ever felt a connection with online, my in-real-life relationship was horrible, was with someone who was just as emotionally scarred as I was. But they left me for some guy at their school. It feels nice to be replaced so easily after a year of being promised that we would someday meet in person, and it felt like they were the only person I've ever been able to have deep and meaningful conversations with. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I know I shouldn't keep looking for relationships, but I have no love or care elsewhere in my life. What is a fact about the human body that not many people know about? Viewer's Edition. Story 1. I had a pretty terrible appendectomy. Pretty sure it was all just constipation due to the region's source of pain, but my foster parents gaslighted everyone into doing the procedure just in case. Problem was that prior to the hospital, I was made to chug down and insert all sorts of laxatives. Surprise, surprise, didn't exactly help the pain, and the next morning I was taken to the hospital. Then, when at the hospital, I was barred from eating or drinking anything since no one knew whether a surgery would just pop up. The dehydration then messed with a ton of stuff like blood draws and blood pressure. Ever since that surgery, my bowel movements haven't quite been the same. I'm pretty sure the large amounts of laxatives combined with an extreme diet change ruined whatever gut health I had left. And without an appendix to provide backups of bacteria, I haven't ever really recovered. Diet change, as in the liquid to semi-solid to solid process, in order to give the gut time to heal safely. That foster family fed me the most messed up diet I've yet to see. Nutritional supplements, protein powder, Nesquik, milk, and the kicker, chunks of lard, then blended up to hide everything. Stuff tasted like dirt, and I had to be constantly drinking it. I would have drank the protein and supplements on their own. They just assumed I wouldn't and put in chocolate milk, but snuck in lard because I was too skinny. Well, I can't handle fat-rich food all that well, and everything just passed through as if I were lactose intolerant. After a decade, gut health has only recently started to stabilize, due to eating lots of stuff like tofu, pickled vegetables, and the like. Still is a little iffy, but I just have to live with the fact my stomach is extra sensitive to spice, dairy, and such. Also forgot to mention the whole reason I wrote it all. At the time of surgery, everyone said the appendix was definitely vestigial, and taking it out at the time was like removing a potential time bomb. After living without one, I was constantly thinking something was missing. My guess was exactly that even if it has no explicit purpose, it at least acts like a backup storage of bacteria in order to regulate gut health. Now, if I don't constantly eat good bacteria, I risk my gut shifting out of a normal digestion. I mean, you just start to know what kind of stool is coming and why. Did you eat too much spice, dairy, not enough water, etc.? Story 2. Story 11 is what reminded me of my fingernail injury. It might be different for everyone else, but my fingernails take 3 to 4 months to grow back completely. I was playing cricket a few years back. For those who don't know, it's basically baseball, but with a heavier ball and wickets and stuff, pretty common in some parts of Europe, Africa, and maybe South or Southeast Asia. And the ball we used wasn't a cork or leather one, but rather a soft synthetic one, which is made up of a semi-hard PVC material and doesn't bounce much. We used this because the area wasn't too big, and others' balls go pretty far when you hit them, and mainly as this prevents us from breaking any windows, or such breakable objects around the campus. I was pretty distant from the batsman, but he hit the ball really hard, and it rapidly flew in my direction. I tried to catch it, but the ball swung slightly to the left and hit the tip of the index finger of my left hand. It pretty much just hit my nail, and my finger instantly turned reddish blue. I went home and held it under cold water, and pretty much everyone was like, "Walk it off, it's not that serious," because it was pretty common and happened all the time, but it took a few days for my finger to heal, and then I realized my nail was broken inside and slightly separated from the exterior part, which is visible. So it kind of grew under the original nail with a black stripe where it separated, and a kind of red spot where the blood clotted over. The new nail still pushed out the old broken nail from under it and kept growing normally, and 3 to 4 months later, it completely renewed, and I accidentally peeled off the original nail while washing something, and I lost it, an entire piece of the broken nail with the red and black parts. The new nail was kind of bent downwards from where it was separated, but it's completely normal now. Story 3. Let me start off by saying that I suffer from insomnia, and not sleeping enough is a regular occasion for me. However, the longest I've gone without sleep was 6 days. This was due to mixing a job, college, and hobbies. Having no time to sleep, I eventually started hallucinating horrible things. Shadows moving around me, my eyesight shortening like darkness was taking over part of my eyesight, feeling like the walls were closing in on me, voices I'd never heard. Eventually, this caused me to barely eat after 2 or 3 days. I wasn't eating anything by day 4, going on to 5. This is also when the worst hallucinations begin. It was unbearable. I could barely remember anything except visual nightmares and impairments, dark circles in eyesight, blurry vision, etc. Apparently, I was also acting weird in front of people. They said it seemed like I was on drugs and had a severe anxiety issue. It looked like my eyes were constantly looking around, is what I heard from other people. Day 6 is finally when my body has had enough, and somewhere around midday, I collapsed. The medical report showed signs of malnutrition, dehydration, lapses in judgment, anxiety, rapid eye movements, etc. I don't remember much except these details. I don't remember what I was working on, who I talked to, how I acted, or how I looked. All I remember is what was told to me by other people after the fact. Since then, I've had some signs where I wake up during the night about 4 to 6 times, still getting nightmares like then. I sincerely hope nobody else has to go through this. Please sleep enough and let your body rest. It is not something you want to experience by any means. If you've gone through this, then you know exactly why I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Story 4. I stayed awake for over 72 hours as a kid because I was completely terrified that my Lalaloopsy doll was going to red rum me the second I fell asleep. My most vivid memory of this experience was laying on the floor of my older brother's room. I asked if I could stay in his bed, and he told me to frick off, but he didn't kick me out of his room. Also, I asked because he's triple my size, so I knew that the moment that twisty button-eyed witch came teetering in, my big bro could lay her butt out. I was at the 72-hour mark of not sleeping out of pure fear when I looked over to the bathroom door, and I kid you not, a shack-sized Lalaloopsy doll came walking out and strolled over to me before pulling out a knife. I can't remember what happened after that, but I do remember my brother slowly crawling out of the bed and slugging the giant doll before picking up the average-sized one that was laying next to me. I refused to let the thing out of my sight so I could make sure it wouldn't end my life. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer type of stuff, and tying it up in blankets and duct tape before locking it in a safe. At around 80 hours, I finally fell asleep and I didn't wake up for the next 48 hours. After that, I was fine. Story 5. 2 nails on my foot were removed due to a forklift incident at a past job. First 3 toes were injured, but only the first and third nails come off. The second didn't come off due to its shape compared to the other 2. The base roots of the big nail were intact, but the nail has steadily been growing back over the last 4 years. It took just over 3 years for it to get back to what I'd say was original length, though it grew at a horizontal curve towards the left, and late last year it started extending over the end of my toe. Its thickness varied in different places, so clipping it was absurdly hard and often hurt. Back in January, I got a manicure-pedicure grinder tool to start shaving it down, and now my nail looks neater, but is still discolored and has varying thicknesses. It also grew in a concave manner, and my toe is shaped differently under where the nail was due to it. Getting under the nail for the first time last month was eye-opening. The small nail grows pretty much the same as before, just at a different angle. Basically a 45-degree angle, right of center, and pointing towards the first 3 toes. Really interesting experience, and it's not even done 4+ years later. Sorry for the bad mental images. I promise they aren't as bad as real images. Story 6. I have that oversensitive vasovagal response thing. I've fainted like a dozen times in my life so far, though I haven't for a good 6 or 8 years now. Though over the years I've learned triggers and warning signs of me going in that direction. Triggers for me: too much caffeine, very poor sleep for more than 3 or 4 days, certain types of pain, high levels of stress, getting my blood drawn, and weirdly, having to drive a car for more than an hour and a half. These things don't always cause an episode, but they do mildly to hugely increase the chance of it happening. Warnings: starting to feel lightheaded and dizzy, sometimes with a slight feeling of nausea, and I often also start to sweat. Luckily, I've also learned how to prevent it from happening, well, 95% of the time at least. Lay down on the ground, legs up as high as possible, and wait it out while trying to distract my mind, usually by watching YouTube or reading manga on my phone. The episode usually passes after about 15 or 20 minutes, after which I'm usually fine again. Story 7. For story 3, I didn't know people couldn't swallow without their tongue, and I guess it's just me and my young self's weird fascination with competitive eating, and then after that, because I would routinely get sick from overeating and also from being in school since I would have panic attacks very regularly, while also having chronic migraines, so vomiting was very normal for me, until I ended up in the emergency room regularly because of concerned adults, even though I thought I was fine, but then I learned vomiting is not good or normal, so they said I should probably stop doing that. So they prescribed anti-nausea meds, but my insurance wouldn't cover it, so my parents were pretty much asked to pay $400 for them, so I didn't get them, and just trained myself to not throw up. Which ended up with me learning how to throw it up on command, which then ended up with me realizing I trained away gag reflexes, so now I swallow sausages whole as a party trick. Story 8. My record was 6.5 days without sleep. Working in a nightclub, right before university, Christmas exams, while putting on a play, I wrote in the Drama Society. Get to a point your brain assumes you're in danger and floods you with chemicals to stay awake. Couldn't even doze off for 10 minutes on a bus ride despite being exhausted. Never had visual or auditory hallucinations. What I call thought hallucinations. Parts of the brain start shutting down to stay alive, so you're basically part dreaming while awake. Just the most random thoughts and beliefs that something had absolutely happened or was happening. Scared the crap out of friends, talking about stuff like it was the most everyday thing in the world that they knew hadn't happened. Finally crashed once the weekend came and slept a solid 24 hours. Apparently I'd lost my keys and broke into my own apartment. Broke the bathroom window by accident while opening it, lied and told the cops and landlord a burglar had woken me up. They believed me. Story 9. I have a fact about the human body. Muscle mass or size does not correlate with muscle strength. Muscles can be big, have a lot of surface area, and are extremely tough, but they won't actually contribute to overall strength, as they may be unused or untrained. I'm mostly meat and muscle, little to no fat due to ADD, meds, and the extremely cursed genetics of Italian, Roman, barbarian, English royalty builds. With this, I am small, have a decent but somewhat medium amount of muscle mass, and I am fast as duck boy. Because I do general labor and eat normally, meat, veggie, dairy, and grain diet, it works wonders for reasons you should know. My muscles are extremely strong. Also because I often underestimate the amount of strength I should be using, I can pick up objects 1.5 times heavier than myself. Too long didn't read, little Italian boy with cursed genes can beat The Rock in an arm wrestling match. Story 10. The longest I've gone without sleep is 2 days. Well, 36 hours to be precise, give or take. I don't recall ever getting anything like illusions, seeing shadows, or hearing voices. I'm also not the best at being able to keep a consistent sleeping pattern, so there's been quite a few times where I've tried to just tough it out and stay awake throughout the next day to go to sleep at a normal time in the hopes of fixing it. And whether it's a rare occasion that I do pull that off, or my eyes feel too much like poop, I won't necessarily feel tired, like everything else will be fine, but my eyes will be aching too much to want to stay awake, I don't ever recall experiencing that stuff. I kind of feel like I'm missing out on an interesting experience, honestly. Wouldn't mind experiencing any of that at least once next time my sleep pattern screws itself up. Girls, what are obvious hints guys never picked up on? Viewer edition. Story 1. I'm not sure I'd count them as hints I missed, but the ladies would probably feel they were. Number 1, 2 separate girls on 2 separate occasions came to my place, sat on my bed, and remarked how comfy it was. Since I barely knew them, and they were part of a friend group I hung out with, I went the easy route. Did nothing, made no move, simply commented that, yeah, I love how comfy my bed is. It weirds me out when girls I barely know who have connections back to my friend group do this stuff. Both girls ended up being forever single due to their choices in men. I feel this is more dodging a bullet than being oblivious. Number 2, one of those girls that used the bed comment had been dropping hints for quite some time. We didn't meet often, didn't really hang out except in the presence of friends, and half of her behavior with me would be flirty, while the other half would be disinterest. When my best friend would go to her place to just chat and I'd tag along because I was bored, she'd cuddle and hold my hand a lot. Yep, obvious sign. But I still knew next to nothing about her. I did a little digging through my friend to try to find out her intentions. If she was interested, then I was going to give her a shot and see where things would go. Basically, he told me I should ask her out, but I wasn't really convinced, especially since she was sending mixed signals. Oh, sure, she'd sit on my lap, cuddle with me, and hold my hand, interlocking her fingers with mine during those instances when I tagged along with my friend, but she never asked for my phone number, never called me, never offered her own phone number, talked a lot about other guys she was interested in, and was generally very, I don't care about you, in groups larger than my best friend and me. She even at one point dropped a hint that she was learning about intercourse from a guy friend, as if I would somehow offer to teach her while she was bragging to me about being with some other guy. I eventually just asked her, "Do you treat me any differently than any other guy?" And she said, "Not really." So that was it for her. She dropped a lot of hints over the years, but I stopped tagging along with my friend to visit her and stopped hanging out with that friend group so I didn't have to interact with her anymore. Number 3, a girl in high school who had been a childhood friend suddenly asked me out in a very public way to go to prom with her. I immediately assumed she was messing with me and told her no. After all, it was in front of the entire class. That spent most of high school basically making fun of me and bullying me, and we really hadn't interacted much with each other for most of high school. It was generally understood that she'd been dating 1 or 2 other guys all through high school, and by that point I was pretty sure I was not her type. She dated sports guys who cheated on her, and I was neither of those things. After getting out of high school and into the workforce, I slowly began to realize that she'd basically been dropping hints to me all through our childhood. She'd spent time in grade school talking me up like I was some cool guy, and she'd sometimes stand up for me. She'd also pick on me in that weird childish way you do for the people you have a crush on. She got really excited one time that I'd casually mentioned that my dad wants me to date you because he says your family has money. I was using it as an example of how stupid and silly parents could be, but she decided it was a point of pride to brag about. Anyway, I never really had eyes for her through grade school, and in high school, she stopped really talking to me and associating with me at all, so it was just a whatever thing. Anyway, not sure it was a dodging the bullet situation, but those are obvious things I missed, and it's probably for the best that I did. Number 4, a girl I worked with kept asking me to come hang out, and we'd do random nonsense together. I didn't really get it until some other new coworker was talking about dating people she worked with, and I was like, I'm never going to date a coworker. If things go south in that relationship, it would get awkward and bad really fast. The invites and such stopped shortly after that. But hey, not like I was going to break the rules for her. Maybe I should also mention that said girl also talked about the guy she was dating decently frequently. Probably why I didn't get it. Story 2. Considering the damage the Me Too movement has done, if women don't learn real fast they need to start being direct, they're going to find it continuously harder to get the guys they want. I realize it's how most women work, but it's a basic rule to pursue what you want, not wait for it to come to you, or in this case, wait for it or them to pick up on your signals to then come to you. You want it, you earn it. You don't bait it. Women don't normally have to worry about this because they get too much attention from men, to the point they're constantly filtering them out, and usually by chance able to get a man they mostly like. Except they still usually can't get their absolute favorite. In which case, again, they need to learn how to pursue by being assertive. Beep beep. Personally, I adore women who can be assertive, beep beep, or even perhaps aggressive. It tends to prove a few consistent traits about such women. Number 1, they know what they want and pursue it. No second guessing. No hawing about what they want in life. If they want it, they go for it. Number 2, you don't usually have to question what's on their mind because they will tell you. They're less apt to playing mind games, or play none at all, such as being passive-aggressive, guilting you to death, being unwilling to make a choice every once in a while, unlike others where they'll never be able to decide what to do for dinner, etc. Number 3, they can be more fun in the bedroom. This part's tricky because everyone's personality in the bedroom doesn't always match up with their personality as a whole. But I have noticed a trend where assertive and aggressive women are at least more communicative in what they like and don't like, and can be willing to take charge. I don't care how hot you are as a woman, if you lie there like a corpse expecting me to do everything, I'm walking out of there. And I mean that literally, as I've chosen to do that before. Number 4, they tend to be more confident. What does the confidence bring? Being less apt to jealousy, such as letting you have time with the dudes, not taking it personally if you find another woman attractive, and perhaps turn your head every once in a while instinctively. If anything, you're lucky and she's turning her head with you. Maybe even gives you a fist bump afterwards. Confidence means they're also more willing to contribute 50-50 to the household, going out, making plans, etc. Not saying all confident women are of this sort, but I do notice a much higher trend. I learned most of these hints later in life, but I'm glad I eventually did learn them. Sure, I look back and can get upset that I could have had all the relationships and fun I could ever dream of, had I even known half of them, but that's life. Although, to be fair, I was one of those clueless guys where I thought if a girl was flirting with me to the point of trying to kiss me or put her hands down my pants, I just assumed it was them trying to play a joke. I was also raised by a jerk of a father who passed his guilt onto me. He lost my mother by being a total prick, and raised me to never be one by constantly making me feel guilty if I ever liked a girl, crap like that. He guilted me so bad that I got so cold around other girls, they thought I didn't like them, even though, on the inside, I was screaming to say or do something. The joys of getting baggage from stupid parents and their mistakes. Those same girls could never understand the deep-rooted anxiety I had, and just how systemic it was. Especially since amongst the women, they've always considered me to be a hot guy, about a 9. They couldn't understand how a hot dude would have trouble with women, which, by the way, is proof that looks aren't everything, and I'm living proof of that. If you don't learn how to communicate with women and or get the balls to speak up, you're getting nowhere, which is why in some cases the average dudes have an advantage because right away they focus on these skills. Talking hot always beats walking hot. The only exception is if you're a 10 out of 10 on the level of like Timothée Chalamet. So good looking to the point most women are unable to control themselves around you. But even he's learned how to cope with his anxiety in a way that makes him endearing to women in how he talks. Story 3. I'm a guy and I'm a Christian, and this was when I was 14 years old. I'm 27 years old now, and I finally got this hint like 2 years ago. I was at church with my family. There was a girl with her family who was around my age. I knew a lot of hints, but this one threw me off big time. When church ended, the girl who was with her family was looking my way. She was acting very strange. She'd look my way, looking like she didn't care about anything at first, and the next moment she was breathing somewhat heavily and looking my way like she was hurt. I didn't do anything to upset her at all. When church was over, she seemed nervous, but she followed me and my family. I heard her light tapping feet across the floor, and I turned around and smiled, and she said, "Hi, how are you doing?" She looked at me, looked at the ground, and put her finger on her lips like she was looking for something, and then turned around and walked away. I asked my family, who saw the entire thing, and they were just as confused as I was. I asked my family, was there something I said? My brother said that they think either she's just plain weird or wasn't paying attention to where she was going. The next day was the first day of catechism, grades 1 through 9, go to a school on Sundays to learn more about God. And I saw the same girl at church who approached me at church. I introduced myself, and so did she. I'm not going to say some actual names, so let's just say her name was Allie. Allie was very shy around me, and always seemed like she wanted to tell me something, but couldn't get the words out. I could tell she could talk very well around her girlfriends, but when I was close by, she would get very shy. She invited me to chat with her on the playground during recess, so I did, even with her friends right there next to me. And I asked her what she wanted to talk about. She just stuttered, and the boys invited me to play football with them, so I said I would be right over shortly. I told her to come get me when she thinks about it. This went on for the entire semester, and the second to last day, Allie called out sick, and I got concerned. The last day, I asked her if she was okay and was feeling better, and she said she was better now. I told her I was glad to hear that, and I asked her if she wanted to play with the boys. And she said she wasn't a sporty girl. I said, okay then, I'll go play football. You can come over if you change your mind. She said okay, but her eyes looked somewhat down. Fast forward to when I was 25 years old, and I told my older cousin about the whole thing. I don't know how the conversation was brought up, but it was. She told me that I was a blockhead, and I asked her why she thinks I'm a blockhead, and she told me she was trying to ask you out and that she likes you. I never felt so stupid in my life. It's all good now, I guess, because she's engaged and seems pretty happy right now. Story 4. The social norms of women. Modern society is encouraging women to be assertive, beep beep, and forward, yet other women simultaneously shame those same women for doing it, and coming off as desperate. So now women have to play stupid games where they drop hints, and you're either in one of 3 situations. Number 1, guy catches on and plays along, leading to a relationship. Number 2, guy doesn't catch on, so he comes off looking dense. Number 3, guy catches on, but out of fear of being labeled an R or something in the event he's wrong, he pretends to be dense. Situation 2 and 3 then causes the girl to automatically assume the guy knows, but isn't reciprocating her feelings, and letting her down gently, when that's probably not the case. So she beats herself up over it, causing insecurity problems, which eventually evolves into problems with other aspects of her life. The whole thing could be solved if women and men created a single norm. Learn how to communicate with one another. You're a girl who likes a guy? Tell him. If he denies, oh well. Welcome to the club of getting let down. If he feels the same way but some other chick gets jealous and claims you're, the girl, acting desperately, literally scoff and say, I shot my shot and it paid off, honey. That junk doesn't work on me. But no, women read way too into men and think if he doesn't pursue you, it's not worth it. It means he doesn't like you, or he would have tried hitting on you already. For all you know, that dude is either too worried about repercussions from getting labeled a creep because the girl didn't like the advance, or he's content without a girlfriend, but open to having one if someone asks him out. That, or he's denser than the center of a black hole. Regardless, young men won't approach women anymore, and young women who grow old are getting sick of emotionally empty one-nighters with the same frick boys who, in a year, will move on to a younger, better girl. So unless society is willing to go back to women being feminine and men being masculine, then it's up to women to put themselves out there. Otherwise, y'all gonna die alone in your empty apartment with 10 cats, who after a week begin to eat your face because apparently cats do that craziness. Men, what myth about men is 100% untrue and infuriates you when you hear it? Viewers Edition. Story 1. When my little half-sister was born, my mom had a heart issue and couldn't be released at the same time. My stepdad brought her home and, as usual, spent the whole week doing coke. My older brother and I took turns making bottles, changing diapers, and rocking her to sleep. I was 8 years old at the time, and my brother was 15. My brother ended up having a daughter of his own, his only child this far. I lived with him, his wife, and my niece from when she was born until she was about 5. I'd take her to the park or the YMCA, and I always got treated weird. One woman at the park went right up to my niece, this woman was a total stranger, and loudly asked if she knew that man over there and pointed right at me. I got up off the park bench I'd been lounging on and furiously strode over as my niece happily responded, "Yep, that's my uncle." That made me smile, and I asked the woman who she was and why she was talking to a kid that wasn't hers. She tried to talk down to me, and I gave her a piece of my mind, threw all her stuff right back in her face. She was this strange adult approaching kids at the park, and I thought she was trying to take my brother's only child. She looked to another woman she had come with for backup, and that woman bailed on her ignorant butt. What kind of abductor takes a kid to the park? At the Y, my niece got some light chemical burns on her bottom and sensitive areas because the swim instructor had poured some chlorine solution along the grates at the edge of the pool where the kids sat before class right before they sat down. My niece's slid off into the water and the grip dimples on the grating aggravated her skin. She came up screaming. Both instructors were women and froze. Most of the moms there just watched. I quickly marched to the edge and hauled my niece out, getting drenched in the process. Got her to the family dressing room and had her get the suit off before hosing her down to get the chemicals off as much as I could. I learned that in the Boy Scouts years ago. Poor girl was screaming in pain the whole time, and it just tore me apart. She calmed down a little, so I stopped the water and had her wait, wrapped up in towels while I went back for her bag, which I'd forgotten in my haste. Got tons of dirty looks, and a woman by the door tried to tell me off. I snapped around with the bag and said, "Thanks for holding the door for me." That was sarcasm on my part. She barely had looked up from her phone. The YMCA staff called the cops on me on the way out, and we were right next to a police station. Had to waste precious minutes explaining my previous first aid training, my relationship to my own niece that looks almost exactly like me, and why getting timely treatment was important. The cops cut us loose real fast. Took her home and asked what my brother and his wife wanted to do as my niece was still crying and saying she felt burning. They took her to the ER just to be safe. Story 2. The ones involving the myth that men don't feel emotion. I'd just like to say that if a man can't show emotion or doesn't cry at sad times, it's either because he was hurt deeply at a young age in the past, or he was told off many times because they were showing too much of it. Like me, as a man, I rarely let out my own tears. Even when my eyes feel like I want to cry, I suck it up and bottle it up for several years. I only do that because I cried too much as a kid, got criticized for how much I did, felt embarrassed, embarrassment turned into shamefulness, shamefulness turned into hurtfulness, hurtfulness turned into emotionless behavior because I was practically mentally scarred by my own actions that in the effort to better myself, my mind thought it necessary to bottle up 75% of all my emotions, and that affects a man's life way more than they might expect. For example, I've never been in love because I don't know what love feels like anymore, as I can't completely feel the emotion of love or the store in my body, like the whole butterflies in my stomach kind of thing. The only times I can cry anymore is if I feel the need to, and I gotta force it out. Even as a man, at family funerals I've been to over the years, I watch my family members grieve all around me, and I show none of what they feel. But that doesn't mean I don't feel it on the inside if I don't show it on the outside. When I am sad, I don't know how to show it. I don't have contact with anyone but my family when I want to speak to someone else to let out my emotions, who will listen and understand it with me, besides my own family who just questions why I feel like I do. I don't want to be questioned for my emotions or my behavior. I want to speak to someone who will listen without question, and I can't have that anymore. I even fear I might not have that ever. Edit. A couple of things have happened that might be worth writing out here for further explanation. I had a dream where I asked my high school crush out. I could feel my full emotions, like I was shy, but I was more surprised I was going through with it. Apparently, my dream self gave her a pretty flower as a gift, but she kindly rejected me and gave it back with a sorrowful expression written on her imaginative face. That made me think of two things. 1, I could have done this in the past if I wasn't so unemotional. 2, my brain is torturing me at this point, as I've fallen too far in my own lonely hole that I miss the chance to do something way more than I miss the signs of a possibility to change. I can't change, and if I tried, I'd feel nothing, and that makes me believe I'd get nowhere, so I don't even try. I know this, yet I won't do anything because I lack self-confidence because of what I've done to myself. I'm just an unintelligible wreck at this point. Story 3. I love my father unbelievably much. My parents are still together, but as much as I hate to admit it, my mom does not deserve my dad. She's a definite narcissist and picked my eldest brother as her golden child. Thus, I got beaten and abused day in and day out by him, and his lies of what happened when they weren't looking was a much easier pill to swallow than the real truth. And so my brother, sister, and I always got punished by her after having the living F beaten out of us by him. And all that was pretty dang extremely traumatic, since there was literally never ever any justice for us while we were young. By the way, eldest brother was about 16 when I was 5, and that was when I can remember all this beginning. In my older years, I still carry daily reminders of those horrible times, since he targeted me especially. I have poor hearing in my right ear. He boxed my ears often. I have poor vision out of my right eye as well. He very, very purposefully shot me in the eyeball with a strong airsoft gun. Thus, my eye scarred and shed layers of skin, leaving me with impaired vision now. I used to have really great eyesight, and a lung that hurts from breathing often, from me getting stomped on as a kid. It really messed my psyche up, never having a safe place as a kid, since my dad is not home 5 days of every week for work, and my mom would never help or protect us as little children. Mother and eldest brother are indefinitely narcissistic. Mom is far less so than the brother. He is most likely a malignant narcissist, while she's at a lower level of it. But always sided with him and let us youngins suffer basically 24/5. When Dad was home, he and she both acted like little angels, so Dad never got to see the truth, and we kids were just conspiring against our eldest brother. I'm the youngest of 4, 2 brothers and a sister, though one is only brother by blood and nothing more, and one I still love deeply. Story 4. I am very tired of these terminally online women's takes that pass for feminism these days. Don't get me wrong, the misogynistic men are generally worse and, more importantly, statistically more dangerous, but it's also endlessly tiresome to watch people reinvent gender essentialism in the name of feminism, then take out their anger at people who look like me. It's just frustrating because it, A, generally doesn't actually achieve better outcomes for women, B, reinforces poopy gender norms for men, C, is wildly inconsistent with essentially all other feminist thought, D, gives feminists a bad name, and E, arguably gave rise to an entirely new flavor of transphobia and discrimination of erotic workers. All, and this is a bit reductive but mostly true, because some deeply traumatized women back in the 80s decided the primary problem of modern society was with men's corn addictions. Then extrapolated wildly from there and decided to call their blatant conservative fear-mongering feminism. Well, as derided as they were at the time by other feminist and mainstream media alike for their assertions that penetrative stuff was inherently assault or that men were inherently predators, more than a few equally traumatized women picked up on it and haven't stopped crusading since. So many of their ideas haven't really left the public consciousness, nor feminist academia since. Most feminists don't believe the vast majority of this stuff, or at least are trying to unlearn it, because it's patently stupid. But the ones that are obnoxious about feminism sure do, and the internet amplifies their BS 1,000-fold. I really just want to move past this black mark in feminist history and actually tear down the patriarchy, as it were, but that feels so incredibly futile, even if your supposed allies are actively trying to rebuild it right in front of you. Story 5. I hate the stereotype that men can't dress nicely or care about their appearance, hair, hygiene, etc., unless they're gay. I grew up as the youngest of 4 siblings, as the only boy. My role models as a child were my sisters and my mom. My dad was at work most of the time, but he's even a very gentle person in his own right. I never grew up with people encouraging me to inherit traditionally masculine traits, and so I also don't act like your typical man. My dad ruined sports for me by getting way too upset over it when things didn't go his way, and he would make sure the whole house could hear his complaints. That means I spent a lot of time in my room trying to distract myself from the noise. I listened to a lot of music, played a lot of video games, and drew a lot with crayons and colored pencils. My mom used to be in choir as a kid, and when I was little, she'd sing to me and my siblings. It's part of the reason I sing so much these days. I'm artistic, sensitive, compassionate, empathetic, a bit of a nerd. I have no interest in sports. I'm well-dressed, and I get along with women better than I get along with men. I also happen to really love eating wussy. These days, I can confidently say I know who I am, and I'm sure as heck not going to let some stupid stereotypes tell me otherwise. Story 6. I remember reading an article about 10 years ago saying that men were no longer willing to help children in trouble out of fear of being branded perverts. In today's world, it still holds. Luckily, I haven't been in this situation, but I would really freak out inside of me if a child approached me, say because it's lost and wants to reunite with their parents. Then trying to keep as calm as possible, I would probably find the closest police or security guard and just let them handle the situation. I'm a normal functioning adult and I absolutely despise predators, but I know I will never be able to win an argument with a random NPC if they ever randomly accuse me of anything, and I really don't want any problems in life. Also, it sucks that in today's world, despite society changing in many good ways, we are still expected to act in a certain way. We cannot have a bad day, we just have to man up and deal with it. I've always been respectful of other people regardless of gender. I've always stood up against the ancient ages sexism, and still it feels as if I have to pay my quota of guilt just because I'm a man. Story 7. I'm a girl, but I remember when my mom first hit me with the men only want one thing talk, and the you won't be able to keep a man unless you do this with them a lot, 'cause they have to do it, it's like peeing for them. Yes, she really said that. I was so confused. Like, what the F? Aren't men human too, who have different moods and mental states? Maybe not everything is about that. Also, she believes that a man can't have friends from the gender they are attracted to, 'cause they want to do it with everyone they like. Nowadays, I try to pop her balloon with, but what about bi or pan men? They don't have friends at all? She doesn't have an answer to that, just goes quiet. Unfortunately, I don't think she listens to me on this topic, 'cause she's been with many men and I haven't. But I think I'm lucky that growing up listening to only this, me and my dad don't really have a deep bond, to be honest. We don't talk much. I still manage to be able to look at people with other genders like human beings, and not like some weird other species. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.